Where are they?
They're probably upstairs.
They never answered the door. Oh, wait. It's Monday night.
They're on the second floor.
What's up, guys? I'm Matt.
And I'm Bo. Today we're going to talk about customer service.
Customer service in the industry we work in, and the customer service that we've experienced maybe out in the wild out there, you know. So we're just going to jump right into it.
It's lacking for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, big time. It's definitely lacking out there. So we're just going to jump into it and just ride along with us. So let's
do stories of, let's do our own stories, you know, us being on the giving customer service side along with receiving. We'll just do any kind of good or bad that you've had to deal with and that you can think of. Go over that too, but we'll talk everything down to how important it is to us and what we experience everywhere else and whatever. So we'll just go over all of it.
All right. Well, for me personally, when I opened my business, I told everybody that I worked with, which was only like 3 people at the time, and I told everybody that come in the door that I wanted to be the Chick-fil-A auto parts is what I wanted to be.
I hate that.
I don't. I absolutely.
I hate that.
Well, that's why Chick-fil-A is one of the biggest fast food chains right now. But I'll
tell you why I hate it in a minute.
Okay. Now, there's a difference between being overly over the top, but I want to be the best experience. When you go into a place, I want it to be the best that you can't think about nothing else that I want to go back. I want to go back to that place because of this. So that's the way we were when we first opened. I
still are.
Still are.
That's the way you still are, not when you first
I'm sorry. Well, things have changed a little bit. Matthew is still not the guy that will take a cussing in front of you. That won't happen no more. Now, the 8 year ago Matthew that just opened his business, he would take a tongue lashing and a cussing and deal with it later. But I hit it right in the head now. So if it happens today, so that's where I'll say that. You know, in my line, in your line too, there's a lot of crap that goes on that it's probably one of the rougher lines, I would say, that for customer service, besides probably some fast food.
Yeah, restaurants would be bad,
restaurant and fast food. But as far as, you know, you're always too high for it doesn't matter what.
They're always high at restaurants. Man.
Well, yeah. You know, you're always too expensive. You're always, you know, it's never. It doesn't matter for shipping or if you're tired, you know, if stuff don't make it there, overnight shipment that's supposed to happen, don't make it, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely 100% your fault because nobody else sees that you have a truck that delivers your product every single night. Or, you know, something UPS, FedEx, none of those people got it to you when they claimed that it said it's supposed to arrive today and it didn't. You can't help that. It's out of your hands. But no, starting... you know, I was very, very accepting to anything and any problem anybody had. I'd bend over backwards trying to help them. If I knew I couldn't even fix their problem or have something, I would try to give them a solution where to go. Or, you know, well, why don't you try this instead of what you're doing? If I couldn't truly sell them something or, you know, and 9 times out of 10, if you can think outside the box, you can kind of help my customer base. I can help them fix kind of what they've got going on. So I was, you know, I've had a few run-ins with some customers. You know, there's some, you know, being in the auto parts industry for sales, selling auto parts and mower parts and selling lawnmowers and everything. I've had some customers, man. There's some doozies. There's some guys, and you've got a really good girl that works with you, and I have 2 or 3 girls that work with me, including my wife and my cousins. You know, they know their stuff. They know what they're doing. They know how to to look things up, how to make things work. They know how to do it. And I had a customer come in, and he was he was an older guy. I mean, I'm not bashing him, but he's probably 70. Ain't gonna be too hard on him. He's probably 70 years old, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, come here." And he throws this box across my counter. I'm already a little, you don't throw something at somebody. That's just the first thing you don't do. He throws that box at me. "Come here, come here." He said, "You see that? That won't fit my car." It's a gas cap. It's a gas cap. I was like, "All right, well, it's a locking gas cap." So, okay, I'll give you, it may not have been. I don't know. So what kind of vehicle? So I look him up, do all the things, and then while I'm doing this, he's talking to me quietly, but not quiet enough for anybody else not to hear it. He's like, "Well, I'll just tell you one thing right now, big boy. If you want this business to go, you don't need a bunch of women in your parts store." And I said, "Okay, all right." So I'm looking him up, and it pulls up that cap. Okay, it might not be right because it's happened. Computer's not always right, but I was like,
it could be boxed wrong or
boxed
anything.
wrong, it don't matter. So I go out there, and Ford Ranger, the most common vehicle known to man.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, let's just go out here. It says it fits it." Computers, "Well, it don't. I've tried for 30 minutes. I thought, okay. Boy, I hope this does fit. So I go out there and I pull his old one off, just pop it right off. He's wanting this locking gas cap because his neighbors are stealing his gas,
Yeah.
He's one of those. And as being nice as I can, I put that thing on there, and because he's still just yapping about women in a parts store. Da, 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 da. So I was like, put it on there, and boom, I pull it, tighten it down, pull the key out. Will not come off. Turn it 20 times, it won't come off. Put the key back in it, pull it back off, boom, pulls off. Look at him.
Did you put that on there and just turn to look at him?
Well, I kinda did.
I would've.
I popped it loose and pulled it back off, put it in my hand. I said, "It works." I said, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Well, give it to me. Give it to me." And I said, about halfway, him getting it threaded up, playing around with it. And I said, "Do you think I need to go in there and get one of them women to show you how to put it on?" Oh, gosh. He didn't get mad. He felt like he was that tall.
Yeah.
I mean, that tall is probably what he
Yeah.
felt like. And I said, "You want me to go get one of them women?" And at the time, it wasn't my wife that was working with me because she worked with me there for 2 or 3 days a week. And
Oh,
he
that's
said,
great.
I said, "You want me to go get one of them women in there to show you how to put that thing on?" And he said, No. He said, I guess that woman in there, that's your wife, ain't it?" I said, "No, but it could have been my wife." I said, "But it didn't make no difference." I said, "But I do think you need to go in there and apologize to her, So as a man, he went back in there, and he said, well, and outside he was like, "Well, I don't think she heard me. I was being real quiet." I said, "No, you were not being quiet at all." I said, "They heard you." I said, "You need to go apologize to them." I said, "Because they know what they're doing." I said, "I don't have, I don't have people not knowing what they're doing here. Everybody knows what their job is and what to do." I said, "It could have very well been wrong, but it wasn't, So ever since that happened, that customer come in, and he, to this day, he loves the women.
Yeah, still comes back.
Yeah, still comes back, loves the women. So still gaining that customer, but showing that customer like, look, I mean, just if you need help, ask for the help.
Sometimes you got to prove them wrong.
Don't. Yeah, you do. Absolutely.
I
you
love
do.
it.
You do have to prove them wrong. And 9 times out of 10, when they come back, it's usually not your fault. 9 times out of 10, either they've gave you something wrong, they've gave you the information wrong, they don't know what vehicle they drive, all the things.
Yeah.
That's a really good one that I had. I've got so many more, but
Well, that strikes a memory on me. So real quick, and where I work, which you know a ton about, my owner, he believes really two things can set you apart from. He says anybody can put up a building and put some, buy a tire machine and a balancer or whatever and get people to work there and sell some tires. Anybody can do that. They do it everywhere, all over the place. And the only thing that can set you apart is your customer service.
I agree with that.
Because anybody can buy a building, put stuff in there. But the only thing that can set you apart is customer service. That and possibly skilled stuff. But bathrooms too. Clean bathrooms is a huge thing. Of course, you don't have customer bathrooms.
I don't.
So
I mean, if customers has to, we accommodate it as well as we can.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you do, but that's a big thing too. I mean, my wife will drive
especially when you've got a waiting room, you've got to have something.
Oh yeah. But anyway, those two things is what he believes in. So that you saying that reminded me. I had a guy the other day, and he had a GM truck, and that the TPMS sensors have to be trained as to what position they're in for it to know to talk to the dash to tell it. So it's correct.
What locations it's
so it's correct. So we had replaced. May or may not. I can't even remember if we ever replaced one of these sensors. Anyway, he had a bad sensor. And on a GM, it'll say service tire monitoring system. Maybe there's one that's out. And there was, and it was showing that it was a driver front. Okay?
Of course.
On his dash.
Yeah, of course.
So we were doing oil change, tire rotation, and we had to replace that sensor. We pulled it back there, and I got Declan to do it. Now, keep in mind here, this boy that I've got doing it, I have done everything but smack it into him for him to understand, because you think tires don't need to be rotated doesn't mean we're not going to rotate them. You see something, I'm fine with you suggest it. You go up front and do it. Talk to them. If they want you to not, that's fine. But ultimately, those ain't yours.
Yeah, if they want them rotated,
they have a request,
absolutely,
and you're going to follow through with that. All right. Now I've had to have that conversation a couple different times.
Well, what it boils down to, because me and you've both done it, they just don't want to do it.
Oh yeah, it's old, it's crazy. Yeah. Swollen leg, whatever. There's lots goes behind that.
Yeah.
However, that's my rules. Period. My bottom line is that ain't yours. You don't get to make that decision. You can suggest something, and we'll pass it by them and see if they agree with you or want to do it or whatever. But ultimately, we're going to end up doing what they want us to do. Okay. So to me, that's good customer service. However. So what ends up happening is, actually, I'll just go through the whole thing. We finished this. We replaced the sensor, and the same old questions. Y'all replaced one. How can you tell if it's the one y'all replaced or not? Whatever. Like, there's no question when you break it down to see. There's no question.
Yeah.
Completely different. No question. Yeah. And of course, it wasn't one that had ever been replaced before. So anyway, we ended up doing the tire sensor, rotating the tires, oil change, brought it around. I built him out. He comes back in. I said, yes, sir. And I'm big on what we forget, just immediately point blame to us. Don't want them to feel uncomfortable coming back in. So I always do it that way. He's like, you just didn't rotate my tires. Okay. All right. He said, come out here. I said, okay. And I went out there with him. He said, they put a TPMS, or they put that sensor up here on this driver front. I said, okay. He said, that's the one that was out, because it was showing it on the dash. Yeah. No, I'm not saying he's wrong, because it makes sense in their minds, He's like, that's the one that was shown before. I said, okay. Okay, I don't know, He goes, well, look right here. And he shows me on the rear wheel. He's like, see that? I'm like, what? He said, them lines right there. I said, those finger marks from, where the brake dust is? He goes, yeah, I put them there.
Oh no, he's
one
of those guys.
And that ain't been moved.
Oh, it's one of those guys. Okay. Wow.
I said, okay. So then I walked back up front to the other one. I'm like, well, this one's got marks all over it too. I mean, they're putting their hands on it to rotate. Like, what makes you think we couldn't have done that? And he's like, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, these wasn't rotated. That sensor that's the one that was out or whatever. I said, are you saying that we've changed the sensor, and we shouldn't charge you for this, or what are you telling me, that you're wanting? And he's like, well, the tires just wasn't rotated. No, the sensor needed to be replaced, but these tires weren't rotated. I said, okay, hang on just a minute, because all I did was just bill you out. You're coming. Let me go get the guy that did it. So I bring him up. I said, Declan, did you rotate those tires on that car? Yes, or that truck. He said, yes, I rotated them. I said, what sensor did you change? He said, the driver rear. The driver rear was out. And we rotated up to the front.
Okay.
Now it's showing the front because we've relearned the positions and everything. So now it's right.
It's perfect.
Yeah, we've done everything to a T. So it's me, the technician, the customer, all standing right here in this triangle. I said, okay, He came up front. I said, "Did you change the sensor?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, which one was it?" He said, "It was the driver rear." And I said, "You rotated the tire?" "Yeah, now it's on the front." And he's like, "Oh, it was showing on the driver front on the dash, you know." And Declan says, "Yeah, it was on the rear. It was on the rear, the one we changed." You know, the dash. I said, "GM don't know where it's at unless you tell it."
Yeah,
And I
you
said,
have
"It
to
just
relearn
didn't.
it.
It just didn't know where it
Absolutely.
was at, you know." And he goes, "Well, now it's on the." And he said, "I said you did rotate them, yeah, and now it's up on the front. That's when we changed." And that guy just looks at me, and I look at Declan, and I said, "You're good to go, man. Thanks. What do you want to do?" I said, "He tells me he did. You say he didn't. I don't know what to tell you. You know, this sensor's bad. We rotated. You're like, what do you want me to do? You know, I'll do.
I'll go back there and rotate them back.
Yeah, I said, do you want me to rotate it? I mean, I don't. I just want to do whatever it is you want me to do. You know, that's all I want right now.
Yeah.
I can go off what he says. I can go off what you're saying.
Yeah.
Your complaint is marks on a wheel from a handprint. That's what you got to do to rotate them. You know, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, no. If he says he rotate them, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Then I'm okay with that. And out the door he goes.
Wow.
But we had to go through all of that.
So yeah. I know,
Anyway.
I know. Well, yeah.
So that was just an experience that you made me think of, like going, you know.
Customers like that, you know, I get, you know, it's just like today one rolls in. For me, you know, I try to be as good as I can to the customers. I had a mower was dropped off, and he said it needs a starting solenoid. Well, in this industry, what do you do when somebody? Do you just say okay and write it down?
You prove it to yourself.
Why do you think that? Why do you think?
You mean on the
you question the customer.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, you question the customer, or you prove that after you get the mower. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
talk to the guy, so I'm always big about
Why you say that?
Yeah. You will get the cut.
What's going on with it? What's it doing or not doing? That's what I always say. to
Exactly.
everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. You get ask the customer every answer, every question, and see if they give you a good answer. And I asked him, I was like, well, why do you not think? He said, well, it's not starting. He said, there's no power going to the starter. I'm like, okay. That could be a whole host of things, but okay, the starter solenoid, did it just start acting up? Well, it just died. It just died, and then it wouldn't start back, nothing. He said, I started mowing, I made 2 passes, and then it just dies. And I was like, well.
And you think the solenoid's bad? The
Well,
starter solenoid's bad made it die?
Yeah.
The starter
Yeah.
solenoid. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So I was like, okay, well, that's great. I said, I'll check that out. I said, and he said I was mowing and it just stopped. And I was like, okay. So I go out there. I always I don't ever go out there with the customer and, I'm not being boastful or anything, but I don't want to, because you can easily diagnose something when you hear, because God gave us hearing, He gave us touch, He gave us smell, He gave us all these things that we can use in our industry, and I can turn the key on and I don't hear nothing. If I don't hear nothing clicking or ticking or nothing, okay, we've got a power problem. So then you just go from there. So anyways, I get out there and immediately found a bad fuse holder, okay. Play with the fuse holder. Now I've got click. Well, now I go down there. He's got loose solenoid wires. Okay. So, at this point, I'm like, well, really all I've got to do is tighten this up and put him a fuse holder on it, or, squeeze the fuse holder back together, and he's rocking. So I go out there and I literally, after 5 minutes out of the parking lot, I start the mower up to drive it around the building, pull it inside, and let it sit there for about an hour. And I come back to it, and I go get the phone, tell him, and he's like, well, he said, I really wished you would spend a little more time on it and work on it. And this was today. And then I said, okay, well.
What do you want me to do?
I said,
got something else?
I asked him, I said, well, do you want me to just replace the solenoid on it, the starting solenoid? I said, because it's starting right now. I said, this fuse holder was what the issue was. I said, you wasn't getting any power. That's why it died while you were driving it. That's why it died. It lost all power. This is its main fuse holder for the power of the machine. And he said, well, I think you just need to put that starter solenoid on it. And, and I said, well, do you want me to put the fuse holder? Well, he said, if you really think it needs it, then You know, and in this instance, I'm like, okay, well, we're both going to be right. Because when I put this fuse holder on it, you've already got a good solenoid. You know, your solenoid's perfectly fine. There's nothing. But if you want me to put a $40 solenoid on it, or a $30 solenoid, I will. You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll put it on there, you know, and even to this day, I called him about. I let it sit there for a few minutes, and I called him back because it's literally 2 bolts.
I thought you said this was today.
This was today. I let it sit there. I'm talking about today. I let it sit there.
Until today?
Yeah. I mean, he literally dropped it off at lunch, and I called. I mean, this was all within
Okay.
a 4 or 5 hours
I
span.
got you.
And I told him, I was like, what it was, and how he's like, he thinks he's right. And I said, well, your mower's ready. Well, did that fix it? Well, yeah, it fixed it, but the main problem was, well, I knew it was that starter solenoid. So at this point, I'm like, he's done, you know, so at this point, the customer service side of me just kicks in. You're right. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to, you know, I charged him $100 a diagnosis for replacing that and putting a fuse holder in it, $100 diagnosis, and he was tickled to death. But he still walked out of this building thinking that, and part of me wants to argue with him and be like, but that's where you set yourself apart from the other customer service, you know.
Yeah.
The customer, just like your customer thinking he was right. My customer thinks he was right, but he's not right. I mean, the fuse holder's bad. I drove it around the building. It starts fine every single time after you tighten the solenoid up, but, you know, it just... Customer service is like the biggest thing that you can do in anything, whether it be working on cars, whether it be selling parts, whether it be selling something online or on the telephone to somebody. If you can get somebody, you know, intrigued enough to listen to you and, you know, be somebody that they would want to talk to, you can just about sell anything or do anything through customer service.
You just have to make them like you.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's the same thing as being friends with somebody.
It is.
You're not going to go hang out with somebody you don't like. They're not going to come and do business with somebody they don't like.
No,
You know what I mean?
that's right.
It's. I mean, it comes down to that. I've had numerous interactions with people that are negative, a ton that are so positive. Those are the ones that just make you keep going. You quit if all it was bad, negative things.
Oh yeah,
You quit.
Yeah,
You
you
quit.
wouldn't do
You
it
couldn't
another
handle
day.
it, man. It's the ones that walk out those doors and I go, man, it's people like him that make me just want to keep doing this. You know, they're the only reason I'm holding on because that's the kind of people I want to help.
Well,
right
and
there.
these people that we have bad, you know, or you have indifferent, you know, interactions with them. You don't have a lot of them, but the ones that you do have, and sometimes it feels like you may have 2 or 3 a week, that makes it feel like, my goodness, I can't go through another day with something like that on top of me.
Yeah.
And then you have to take that home with you.
You think about it, you replay it through
And
your
then,
mind.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I
know.
wished I'd have said this, or I wished I'd have said that.
Oh yeah.
Or I wished I didn't say that. You know, I had a customer come. It's been a few years ago, and he's already one of these customers. Like when the caller ID comes up, you're like, gosh,
Oh yeah.
you know, you've got those, you know, and it comes up, and he said, "I need a battery," just as hateful as you could be. "I need a battery, and it better not be one of them $high ones." So.
So well, good morning.
Yeah, you know, so it was, and I said, well, hang on just a minute, because he was wanting to know the different prices. So I go to try to get the price for him. Literally 15 seconds on hold. Come back, he's gone. I hang back up. So, okay, whatever. All right, whatever. He comes trudging through the door about 3 minutes later. Yeah, I don't even know why you called. But
Man, this
anyways,
guy's quick.
yeah, he was on his way, and he comes in, and you know, I'm already on. That aggravates me. If you don't have, people don't have patience anymore.
Oh,
That's
no,
another
they
thing.
don't.
They don't
No,
have
they do
patience.
not. No.
I mean, if they want it, that's today's the technology and everything.
That's
it's
worse
right
now than it's ever been.
Yeah,
That
they
is-
want it right
that's a
now.
fact.
They want that instant gratification. So, anyways, he comes walking through the door, and he said, "Did you figure that price out?" I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "I ain't gonna say exactly what he said because he's just an old farmer.
Codger.
He's an old farmer, old codger and he has no filter. He just says what he wants to say, which is fine. That's great." And he comes in there and he said, "Now, I ain't giving you blankety blank $200 for no battery." I was like, "Well, okay, well, you don't have to." And I said, "Well, what is what exactly do you have on it now?" "Well, I told you the year model." I said, "And you hung up on me, and I didn't finish looking it up." I mean, this was like 2 or 3. I knew what battery it took. So he's got his hood open out there. So I go out there and look, and I said, "Well, let's just go out here and see what you got. See how many cranking amps you got on it right now, because it's an old diesel. So I want to see if he's got some 650 cranking amps or he got 1,000 cranking amps, dual battery." So I go out there, and he's like, "What in the world's got you all bound up today," or something like that.
65 series.
This 65 group, yeah, 65 group. And he's like, "What got you all bound up in a hateful mood?" And I look at him just as puzzled, and I said, "Well, you do." I said, "I don't know why you come to me wanting something for nothing." "Well, I'll pay you for it. I just ain't going to pay no high dollar prices." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to give away a battery to you." And I said, "I guess," and I told him, I said, "I guess," and this has just been a few years ago. So this is this side that I tell you, like, you can't get run over either. You've got to be the dude to stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I told him, I was like, "You would rather me close my doors tomorrow and give you this free battery today, and we never see each other again. That's what you would want me to do." "No, it ain't neither." He said, "You're just putting words in my mouth." And I'm already like, you know me, I can have a very short fuse. And it was just the way everything presented itself in that 15 minutes, I was done with it. So I grab his hood and I slam it closed. I said, "I don't want you or your business." I said, "You get out off my property and you leave and you don't come back." So he was gone for like 6-8 months. Well, and he's one of those guys, like, you can get to that point really quick with him about every time. But after this happened, this encounter, he comes back in 6 to 8 months, and he said, "Do I still have something along the lines, I still got an account here?" I said, "Yeah, I reckon. I guess you do, So something about, I don't know, he didn't say kicking me out, but got rid of me or something like that. And I was like, "Well, I'm just not, you can go wherever you want to and talk to whoever you want to like that, but you're not going to do it here. To me, to these girls, it's just not going to happen." And he was like, "Well, I guess you just both got off on the wrong foot that day." But ever since then, there's a level of respect that you gain from that stuff.
Absolutely.
Because
and those people, after that, you don't care to see them coming.
No, absolutely not. I don't care if he ever showed up again either, though. I mean, but I didn't care if he ever showed up, but I know now he knows where I'm at, too.
I've always said you can't run them bad ones off with a gun.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't.
You can't.
He still comes by to this day.
You know why? Because when you try your best, everybody else is worse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly
why.
why.
Well, and what's funny is if you mention his name, "Have you seen so-and-so?" "Oh, yeah." I mean, everybody's like that. So it's like, it ain't you.
Yeah.
It's him. He's the common denominator here. He's that guy.
Yeah.
That's just a few run-ins that I've had. It's just.
I'll tell you a good one from the other day. No, this was not my personal experience. I didn't have this firsthand. So it'd be really more of an experience that my service manager could talk about. It actually happened while I was at lunch. All kinds of crazy stuff happens while I'm at lunch. But anyway, so we had this car in. I'm not going to say what it was, but we had this car in work the other day, and this car is notorious for having rear shock issues. Okay. Matter of fact, I had a guy call me the other day that said he was on his 3rd set of OE shocks from the dealer under warranty.
Golly.
Yeah. and that they were refusing to warranty him again. Yeah. Wasn't going to do it. Anyway, notorious for it. So I don't know if they had just made an appointment and brought it in, or if they talked to somebody first. I'm not exactly sure. Long story short, it needed rear shocks and we were going to replace them. Well, they were wrong. It wasn't the right ones. The ones, when they showed up, the ones that had been looked up before. So Scott had called these people and talked to them and said, hey, these ain't the right ones. We need to look for the right ones here. I don't see they're available, blah, 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 blah. Maybe dealer's the only way to go, so on and so forth. Anyway, ended up finally outsourcing them from a aftermarket solution that was supposed to be right also. So we're like, all right, we're going to try these. These say they're going to work. They are more expensive because they were like a self-leveling versus just a standard. Mm-hmm. So we're like, they say these are going to work. Let's get them here. Let's try them out, whatever. Anyway, those got here. They were wrong. We were going to have to get them from the dealer. The price went even further up. So we just suggested them taking it on to the dealer. Mm-hmm. Like, we were like, at this point, because a lot of times if we've got to get it from the dealer, they're not giving us enough.
The margin's not there.
Yeah, it's really, it's really worse off for the customer in some cases.
Yeah.
They could go there and save money versus, us having to do that. So if we're having to buy it from them, Yeah. Anyway, so we suggested that. So this was months ago, 2 months ago, something like that. It's been a while. Mm-hmm. Well, phone call comes in at lunch, and girl up front answers the phone, and she just, she hears it, and she's like, "What? You need so and so." So she puts the customer through the service manager, and he said it was just like a 2-minute rant of nothing but the customer just constant, and he said, so I just let her go, I just let her go, and it was. My car's at the dealer. Keep in mind, it's just 2 months later. So there you go. Yeah. Anyway, my car's at the dealer. I don't know. They're telling me the bump stops are not on the rear shocks or something like that. The bump stops ain't on the back. I need to know who worked on my car, I want videos of whoever took parts off of it, names of the employees. And they're telling me it ain't got any oil in it, and I've got a oil or something else is going on, and I ain't got no oil in it.
2 months later,
right? Just an absolute rant. Mm-hmm. Okay, mm-hmm. And I want all this and demanded all that. So he said he just let her go for about 2 minutes and went, "I'm not going to do any of that." was her response back?
Oh, that's awesome.
After all of that,
and she's
awesome. Like, "What do you mean?" He goes, so first of all, now let me put this in a little bit of perspective here. We didn't do anything to this car. Mm-hmm. Nothing to this car.
We didn't even touch it. We didn't take it apart. We didn't do nothing.
Right, nothing.
Nothing was right.
Nothing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, so she's like, he's like, I don't know what you're like. What are you wanting here? Like, I don't even understand, like, what you're trying to get at here. We didn't touch your car, much less the oil. We didn't do nothing with oil. We weren't even here for that, And he's like, what are you talking about? And, well, they'll tell me this. He goes, well, I can't answer that. Where's it at? He's like, I can't answer that. I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't even charge you anything.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, we did not do anything. Well, how can you tell they're wrong? He's like, you look at it. Like, it's just a visual thing. You can see, a self-leveling shot's like that big around where another one's real just small, Uh-huh. So he's like, I don't know what you want. And anyways, yeah. But, I know. It's just, it's incredible. It's incredible. I got a bunch of really good ones that come to mind.
That's the customer service side, definitely, for a shop or for a store or for anything. People just want a good feeling is what they want. They just want a good feeling when they leave, when they come, when anything like that. They just want a good feeling when they get there. And that's, I think, what made us, business-wise do as well as we have. Was just that, just that.
You're just honest.
Yeah, it's all they want. They just want somebody to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to be that person that's been like, okay, I know you've been to 3 other parts stores and they've all told you this. I have it all the time with batteries. They ain't no parts store in a 45, 50-mile radius of me that'll change certain vehicles. That they're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Mercedes, a Chevrolet Traverse, a this or that.
Under the seat.
Yeah, I mean, any
Yeah.
of this stuff, they won't touch it.
Yeah.
If they've got to do anything, forget it.
Yeah.
Which there again, if they've went somewhere and now they're coming to me, I don't care if I even feel a little bit uncomfortable. Matt's gonna make it happen, just because that's the customer service. That's the side of me that, because I guarantee you, the next battery that goes out, they're not going to there. They're coming to me, and I've got that so many times. Just taking care of them. Or if it's, I don't even think some of these places can even put oil, help the customer put oil or coolant in their car.
Yeah.
It's gotten that bad because corporate.
Franchise stuff.
Yeah. Corporate don't allow that stuff.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like nowadays, and I shouldn't even say this, but like they don't get to, like, they'll scan their check engine lights. Have you ever had an auto part scan your check engine light?
I've never had them do it. I send customers to do it all the time.
Okay, well, so
All the time. I tell
do
them
you see
to.
what they do? Now they've got this.
Yeah, they
little
give
thing.
them a diagnosis printout.
Yeah, which is a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have 5 parts you need to buy. I'd start with this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
But there again, that's a pretty good service because they potentially get a sale out of it, and they've got an answer. That's what they're looking for, is an answer, and if they can get the part.
Yeah. That's like not having an
but they
oven,
won't- but they
though,
won't.
or that's like not having a grill and somebody selling you steak at the grocery store. Now you gotta go find somebody with a grill to grill it. That's so stupid.
Yeah, I know.
Who goes out and buys who goes out and buys a capacitor for their air conditioning unit and then calls around getting somebody to install
come
it?
put it in?
Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
Ain't gonna happen.
Figure it out.
We've cut
yeah.
that out completely. We don't install. We don't even let people carry an oil and filter no more.
Really?
Nope. Don't touch it.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's fine. Do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's I mean, for the labor that you have to charge to even make, because more than likely you ain't gonna get a sale off of them. You ain't gonna get a wiper blade. You ain't gonna get an air filter. You ain't gonna get nothing.
Tell
off
me
that
needs
sale.
brace and want to do that. I mean,
that ain't gonna happen. But big thing is with like my customers, like being a mechanic and being in the field and stuff. I'm like, well, bring it in here. Let me see what code they've given you. And well, they'll bring it in and it'll be like a cam position, a Ford cam position sensor correlation code, and you need to put a cam sensor in its first. No, that's more. If it's a Ford, more than likely it's not that. You've got timing. You've got phasers out. You've got something going on in that. The correlations. You can put these 3 parts on it, but it's probably not going to fix it. Yeah. And you've got 6 codes.
it's what you can't see here.
Yeah,
There's gonna have to be some money spent on this to be able to tell you what's wrong.
Exactly. Take it to somebody that's got a big nice diagnostic tool to see both banks, see what's happening. But clearing the check engine light, they will not clear a check engine light.
Yeah.
Because just like when you're working on one, if it's got 6 codes, erase those things, see what comes back first, and that's generally, that's your go-to. And like that, I have a lot of customers that I get that. Now, I don't like doing emissions codes just because, it is what it is. But like when it's stuff like that, or it's a misfire code, or it's a random misfire and it's got 3 cylinders misfire.
Ridge, lean conditions on top of everything.
Bank one, whatever. Erase that stuff, see what comes back. As soon as this light comes back on, you come and see me really quick. I hate to feel like I'm diagnosing their car for them.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like that.
You don't want to do that, but I'm like, this is going to help you fix it, because if you're leaning on only one bank, or if you're leaning on both banks, you could be numerous things. But this is what I would be looking for. A fuel pump, a intake leak, or yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. But we need to see which one comes back. And but I've got a lot of customers from other stores doing those sort of things, whether you can't, you just go the extra mile and help those customers out a little bit more than the last person.
And half
and
the
you
time,
gain that.
all that is time.
Oh yeah, just a little bit more time. Absolutely.
The show of just the slightest bit of effort. Mm-hmm. You know,
absolutely.
Just like that freaking bagger at that grocery store. Don't make the littlest bit of effort. I wouldn't care if you dropped all 12 of them eggs. They just run off back here and get some more. Just some effort, dude.
Yep.
You ain't got to be the best at it. That's what I tell my boys. Your try will get you further in life than your skills will.
It will. It will. Just trying. If somebody can see you're putting the effort into it, it means a lot.
If I was a coach, man, I'd rather have a 3-star that worked his tail off as I would a 5-star that thought he was the stuff and didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, it's awful. It kills me. But yeah, customer service is huge in our world, huge. Both of our worlds, and we deal with it every day. The stories are, we could probably come on here every day and just talk about work. What happened that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that one, it happened today. It was very, and I could go on and on if we wanted to do repairs. This ain't just my cross-counter stuff. I have cross-counter stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And, and people like, this is kind of going back to, a earlier talk that we had. People don't always want cheap either. Like, I'm very competitive with my parts and prices and stuff, but between the customer service and the know-how, and giving an answer, that's another thing with customer service. They want an answer. If you don't have any way to fix it, you can't fix it. There's nothing you can do. But if I tell you to go to this and do this, they can fix it up for you. If you send them there, that means more to them than just saying, well, I don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, they like that a lot more than just, I don't know, go figure it out. If you give them an answer, that customer service, that's really one thing that, that was one thing that I learned, that you need an answer for them. If you can't fix it, the guy that opened my store, he said, if you don't have the parts, or you can't get it, or you can't do it, give them an answer. And that helps tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're looking for direction. If you can't point them in the right direction, you ain't no help.
No.
I mean,
yep.
Ultimately they're still just trying to get the one thing they need done, regardless of what it is.
Yep.
I mean, if it takes an extra step to get there, that you may have just showed them what step to take, though, to, just to get that much closer. So you're absolutely right about that too, though. It all makes a difference. Effort, though, man, it just goes so far. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, I can't stand is these people. It's unreal, the mixture of how people are, of how different they are. You'll have someone come in and just be over the top nice, understanding, whatever it may be, and then someone who, man, you couldn't make them understand at all, or they're unreasonable. Just crazy stuff.
Yep.
And another thing that I believe, now this is me, this isn't necessarily somebody saying this or whatever, but I run my store like this. I tell people, I've got a group full of humans back here that are working on your car. Okay. And I tell my guys too, I'm like, listen, we need to control the things we can control, because we're going to deal with problems. There's no doubt in my mind, we're going to deal with problems, but there's things that are out of our control that we're just going to have to face the music and deal with, that there's no avoiding. Parts being bad when you get them, failing, and I tell my customers too. They're like, well, why do you think that part failed? I'm like, made late on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. I just know it did.
It does.
You can't say why. But I'm like, guys, the things we can control, let's control them. Let's limit the number of issues that we have. And all this translates back to taking care of the customers and giving good customer service. But it drives me crazy, the people that come through that door and act like you owe them something as soon as they walk through that door.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they act like you owe it to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely they do. Yeah.
And it blows my mind, I don't go in a place acting like that.
I never do that sort of stuff. Okay, well, here's another thing for me, and I'm sure you get it all the time with, well, I went to so-and-so shop. Well, now mine is I have all the time. Drives me crazy, especially when I go out of when Matthew goes out of his way to say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, or you might try this because this is very common on this vehicle. I had one call, I don't know, over the weekend maybe, and he said, I got a 4.0 Ford Explorer, 06, 08, somewhere in there, thermostat housing. Plastic thermostat housing in the valley. I knew exactly what he's talking about. I've replaced tons of them.
Right in the front of the motor, right there on top.
And he said, and this is like a good customer of mine. I'm a decent customer. He was not like the best customer, but he's a good customer. And he's like, man, he said, he said, I bought this down there at Napa, and and I was like, well, if you don't mind me asking, why did you buy it at Napa? And he's like, well, I just that, and I get it. Sometimes maybe I'm not open, but I mean, Napa's open the same time I am, so you can't use that excuse on me. And so he just bought it down there, whatever. Well, it blew out a plug. It blew out the little where the sensors go in. I know I can visualize this stuff. I don't even have to pull it out of the box. I know I've replaced enough of them. I know what he's dealing with. And there's a little wire clip and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, man,
I know exactly what you're talking about. The sensor goes in, the wire clip holds
goes
it.
in it. Yeah. And some of them have two sensors and some of them have one. And you have a plug with another wire clip in it. And I'm just visualizing all this in my head. And the whole time I'm like, dude, if you would have bought this from me, I've got it. So while I'm talking to him, I'm like, well, I don't know what you need to do. I mean, you ain't going to find that clip. The only way you might find that clip is if you call the dealership. That's what I told him. I said, you might call the dealership and see if they have that little clip that goes in that, and that plug, the little bung that goes in it. And
does a new one come with new clips?
Yeah, absolutely. A new one does.
Should have held on his old ones.
Well, I guess for whatever reason he didn't, or maybe his didn't have an extra. I don't know, but anyway, I told him, I was like, well, man, I said, I'm just going to tell you. I said, because then he's like, well, I don't want to run all the way to the dealership. I'm like, well, I don't know. I can't help you. I can't get that clip. I can't get that plug. And I said, I'll just be honest with you. If you'd have bought that from me, I'd have took it out of this box. I'd have give you this plug and this clip, and I took that part and I'd put it in my defect bin and I'd send it back. I said, that's just if you would have bought it from me.
That's what Napa ought to do for you.
And that's what I told him. I said, well, why will they not help you? He said, well, they'll only do it if I take the whole part off, and that's a hard job. And I said, well, I would agree with that. I don't know that I would want to do that, especially for a bung. I mean, it's a brand new piece that you just put on it 3 days ago. It's no different than them pulling that stuff off and throwing that in the defect bin. And I said, well, you can do what you want to do. I said, so by the time he got off the phone, he was going to a junkyard to pull one off of a junkyard. But you go through all this trouble with somebody, but that's where the customer service, that's what I would have done. If you buy it from me, so easily, just do that. Pull that part off a shelf. I've got it in my hands. I was like, well, dude, that thing's, and that was another thing. I was like, and again, it was like $119 is what the part was or something, or $109, and they were like $3 more expensive. And I don't care. It's just that you bought it from somebody else. But don't call me with your problems. I mean, you should. If you would have bought it from me, I told him right off the bat. I should have just bought it from you. Well, yeah, absolutely, you should have. But that's what you deal with in this industry, though. I mean, you'll have it even like with you. Customers call you. I was down at so and so shop, and you've heard so many times how they've always. And sometimes, the shop does mess up, but sometimes it's the customer's fault, too. Yeah. It ain't always the shop's fault.
I had a guy call me the other day. He had a Kia, and the low oil pressure light was on. Only at an idle. It'd go away when you give it gas. Only sitting still at idle with it in park, when the RPMs are lower, or in drive, I mean. You put it in park, it'd go away, too. And he said, what does that sound like to you? I said, well... do you hear any noise? If you didn't have oil pressure, you should hear a knocking noise. He's like, no, don't have no oil, or don't have no noise. He just got the oil changed at like a quick lube or something. And I said, so you did not have, this light never came on before you got the oil changed? No, I'd never seen it before that. It's okay. I said, well, just first kind of thinking about this real quick. I mean, don't have a noise, lights coming on. It sounds like your typical oil pressure switch is going bad. You know what I mean? I said, the only thing that really makes me want to, and I hate saying anything's wrong over the phone. I need to look at it,
Absolutely.
But I said, it's what it kind of sounds like. What I don't like about it is that it goes away. It almost sounds more like oil pump's getting weak, and then, you give it gas to speed it up where it'll pump a little better and goes off. I said, that's the only thing that I don't really like, I said, but I'd track it right back to what you just did. I said, if they just changed the oil on it, I said, what's your oil sticker say? What grade of oil did they put in it? And I looked up the vehicle, and I'm just spending some time with the guy on the phone, like I said, like we've been talking about. And I said, what does the oil sticker say, in the window there? What grade of oil? I don't say. Just tells the mileage or whatever.
That would have been my first thought.
Yeah. I said, okay,
viscosity.
well, I looked it up. I said, your paperwork might say something. That don't mean that it got translated from the shop to the office correctly or anything else. I said, somebody could have picked up the wrong bottle. Somebody could have grabbed the wrong oil reel, whatever the case may be. I said, I would just simply go back to where you had the oil change done, and I would ask them to change your oil for you again, or can you just drain it and refill it just to make sure the right viscosity is in it. I never had this problem, and any place would gladly do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would do it in a heartbeat if I was accused of causing something and all we did was change the oil. I'm like, I'd be like, let's rule this out. A mistake could have happened. But so I told him, go back there, whatever. He said, Bo, I really don't want to go back there. I'd rather just bring it to you and pay you to do it again. I said, well, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, I'd gladly do it. And let's just, that's where I'd start and make sure that, so we did. We changed the oil, made sure it had the right filter on it, right viscosity was in it, and all of that. And so anyway, we start it. It's not doing it in the shop. We pull it around. It's not doing it yet. He leaves. It's not doing it. He drives down the road. It's not doing it. He gets home, stops again. There it come back on. He called me. I said, bring that thing down here. Let me see if I can, hook to it and actually see an oil pressure reading. Let me do that. Don't have the capability to see. It showed me fuel pressure, things I didn't need to know, but it does not show an oil pressure. So the oil pressure switch for this car was under the intake.
Oh, shoot.
Big job.
Yeah,
it was like $700 to switch this dang switch out. I said, here's the thing. I said, I don't have the capability of telling you, hey, we need to do this to your car. I like to know, we're not under some tree somewhere out in Iota or wherever. I like to know if I'm selling you something, it's going to fix it. I want to be able to prove it to me that it needs it in order for me to feel good about it. I can't do that with yours. Yeah. And it's not a cheap guess. You're under the intake on this thing, and if you're pulling this, it's got 98,000 miles. You better put some spark plugs in it while the intake plan is off of it. I'm like, it's a snowball thing. I said, I hate to tell you this. Nobody wants to hear this, but you need to take it to the dealer. And that's something nobody wants to hear.
Absolutely.
They've got a bad reputation, whatever, and some of them's great probably, but so anyway, he takes it to the dealer. They look at it. This guy actually calls me back afterwards.
Reports back to
gets an estimate from and it turned out to be the oil pressure switch. He said, well, you said you could do that. It was this much money. I said, yeah, I did. And he said, well, do you want me to bring it back to you? Let you do it. So here I am with the opportunity to take care of this guy, have his business, and obviously we got it anyway, but so I told him, I said, well, let's think about this a minute. We were here on this cost. They're here on this cost. If I have you bring it back to me just for me to do it, you're going to have to end up paying them $200. So let's add $200 to my cost no matter what. And then if I do end up doing it and it doesn't fix it, where are you at? You've still got a light on.
You're at $900.
You didn't have them fix anything. And nobody's there to stand behind anything.
Yeah.
So I said, in that case, hey, I think your money's best served doing,
a couple more $100, and
exactly.
Yeah, if
they're
something's
responsible.
Wrong, if something's wrong, and they're gonna have to fix why it's doing it.
Yeah. So I said, just let them do it, and and we'll get you next time. But because we offer as good a customer service as we do, that guy felt the need or obligated or whatever that he should at least call us and give us an opportunity. And of course I talked us out of it, but
but it's better for business.
It's fair.
Yeah, it's better for business.
You treat people fair. Man. You treat people fair.
Absolutely.
But that's why customer service is so important to me. I mean, just stuff like that.
Oh, so. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and people like the honesty. People like the honesty. They like somebody being straight up with them. And yeah, it's going to cost a dude probably 200, 300 more bucks, but in the grand scheme of things, he's better off, because if something doesn't work out,
Yep.
it's on the dealer. So I
it.
agree with that. But customer service is key. I mean, that's 50 to 60% of your business is customer service.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's what sets you apart. So
Yep, it is. Well,
that's my customer service rant.
yeah. Well, we could go on for days and days about it, but
Yeah.
we could come on here and talk every time we get together about something that happened throughout the day with a customer.
And we might end up doing that.
Yeah, we might. Y'all might like hearing that. But anyways, we just wanted to want you guys to stick with us. We enjoy you guys listening in. And again, I'm Matt.
Now, Bo, like, share, subscribe, whatever you feel you want to do.
Yep. So until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining us.